Morning, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay? I hope so. The microphones, it should be the right one. Um, Let me make sure. Great. If you guys can hear me at any point, please let me know in the Q&A tab. Um, I do see some new names, so perfect. I do see some new names in the chat. So hello, everybody. My name is PJ. I'm the Assistant Director for Strategic Communications and Recruitment here at KIC. And this is going to be our second last webinar. So if you have not attended our previous ones, please, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can watch all the pre-recorded sessions now. We have another session that's going to be happening in December. Let me quickly double check. And that's going to be an orientation overview session. So it's going to be December 30th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Time. If you haven't signed up for it already or registered for it already, please do so, because this session we are going to talk about what to expect during orientation, what documents to bring, what exactly we're going to be doing during orientation week. So if you haven't signed up already, please do so. It's going to be a very important session. Like all of our pre-arrival webinars are very important, but this one in particular, if you're nervous and you're scared about what to expect during orientation, this is going to be a great one for you to join. I am going to leave the registration link in the chat in case you haven't registered for it already. But again, please make sure you join that one. It's going to be very helpful for you. But with that, today we are going to talk about, I just want to make sure YouTube looks good. So today we're going to talk about tuition, payments, insurance, and all that good stuff. Obviously, I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions and I'll do my best to answer all of them. If there are questions I'm not able to answer for some reason, or if I can redirect to somewhere else, I will. But beyond that, we can get started. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Thank you for letting me know that you can hear me fine. That's helpful. Where is everyone watching from? I'm curious what time it is for you guys. It's currently 11 a.m. here. I came in a little late to work today, but I have my coffee. If you've joined me in any of my older webinars, you guys know that I really love coffee and I drink a lot of it. But let me, alrighty. Okay. So welcome to our webinar. Zimbabwe, it's 7 p.m. Okay, so it's not too late. That's good. Winnie, welcome in. Okay, so that's not too late. So I'll make sure this webinar doesn't go on for too long either. So let's get started. So the overview of today's session, we're going to talk about what planning your budget looks like, how to make payments, health insurance, scholarships and graduate assistantships if we have any graduate students watching, and what working on campus and employment looks like, and what are the regulations and rules and regulations around those. So the first thing that I want to quickly put out there is planning your budget. When we send you your I-20 and you see the estimated cost of attendance, you'll see that we have things listed on there like tuition and fees, living expenses, health insurance, books and supplies, and of course, personal expenses. However, the key word here is estimated. That's just an estimated amount, so it could be higher or lower depending on, let's say, where you choose to live. The health insurance is going to remain the same, of course, but books and supplies, and again, that's going to depend on, we put a number there, but it depends on how many classes you're taking and what books you'll have to buy for those classes and how much those books cost. So these are very estimated costs that we like to put on the I-20, just so you get a good general idea of how much funds you need to have. Now, things that are not included in the budget that we sent out in the estimated cost of attendance is obviously your SEVIS I-901 fee, your visa fee, and any of your travel expenses, your airfare, shuttle, hotels, any of the other expenses that come with traveling, food, all of that stuff is not included in the budget. So as you're thinking about traveling and putting together funds for or talking to your sponsor about the estimated cost, kind of keep these numbers in mind as well, that if you haven't gone for a visa interview yet, remember that that's $185 fee. And then you'd have to pay that visa fee every time you go for an interview if you don't get the visa. However, I believe in you guys and I have faith in you guys, and I know that you guys are going to do your absolute best. If you haven't, gone to your visa interview yet, we've also done previous visa prep sessions that you can watch on our YouTube, or we also do provide free visa prep sessions with our current international students that you can sign up for. That is something you'd have to book. So if you're interested, please let me know and I can leave the link in the chat. These sessions are usually 30 minutes long. And you will be able to talk to a current international student, and they'll kind of take you through the visa interview process and questions they might ask, and then they'll do some practice rounds with you. All right, so as you're looking at the academic expense sheet, as you see here, you'll notice that you'll see two different tabs here, right? So one's with the International Maverick Scholarship and one without the International Maverick Scholarship. This is very important for you to kind of note is because all of our new international students, undergraduate international students, automatically receive what's called the International Maverick Scholarship. So with the scholarship, you see that amount reflected on the screen right now. You can continue to have the scholarship until you graduate, as long as you're maintaining your GPA requirements. We'll talk a little bit more in depth in our slides kind of further on, but this is definitely something that you need to think about and have in mind, is this is what the tuition is going to look like. And if you're slipping up and you're not doing well academically, then you could potentially have to pay that without the international scholarship. However, I know if you guys are, struggling, this is also a great opportunity for you to kind of think about what steps you would take. So meeting with your professors, making sure you're going to classes on time, making sure you're submitting your assignments on time, studying for your exams. Those are all skill sets that you are already coming here with, and it's good to continue to maintain those skill set as you're here. Room and board, we've added an estimated amount for on-campus housing. Obviously, this number could be higher or lower depending on if you want to live off campus, if you want to live with multiple other roommates. So this cost is just kind of there as a ballpark for you. And we'll kind of talk about the differences in the average cost differences in on-campus and off-campus housing further down, but this is a good number to look at and think about and talk to your sponsor about, hey, this is how much housing is going to potentially cost. So make sure you have those funds and the estimated expenses, of course, books and supplies, health insurance, personal expenses. And so the total academic expenses for the 9 months is listed right on the screen for you. Now, this is for our graduate students. Unfortunately, our graduate students do not get the International Maverick scholarships. However, this is kind of like the estimated cost. The only big difference you'll notice is in the tuition and fees. If we do have international students, graduate students here, please let me know, and we can definitely talk a little bit more in depth. But if we don't have any graduate students, I'll kind of spritz through these a little bit. I did see your question about the health insurance, so we can talk about that at the end of the session. I'm going to make a quick note on that, and we can go onto our website itself and look at it together, and I'll explain why the price might look a little different to you. So insurance for fall. Okay, so how are students billed? That's another big question that we tend to get. So we do have a graduate student, awesome. So again, Enoch will talk about it a little bit more further down. So I will make sure that I answer any of your questions as well. But payments wise, students are billed every semester. So that means when you come here in the spring, you're going to be getting billed for the spring semester. You have to clear that bill before the semester ends. So before the end of spring semester, next semester, you have to clear your bill. Otherwise, you will not be able to register for your classes for the next term. If at any point I don't make sense or if I'm talking too fast, please let me know. I know I can speak a little too fast sometimes, but I want to make sure you guys understand this. You must make the health insurance payment before you're allowed to register for classes, which means when you're here in the spring for spring orientation, the very first thing we're going to have you do is pay your health insurance. Once your health insurance payment is made, that is when we remove that hold for you and then you're able to register for classes. This is also why it's important for you to join the orientation overview session because our retention team that does most of the planning for orientation is going to have a much better understanding and idea of exactly how that's going to look. But please remember that health insurance is the first thing you're going to have to pay for when you get here. Orientation fee is $200, which will be added into your account after the week of orientation. So that's not something you're paying for the week of orientation. So don't worry too much about it, but just know that that amount is going to come up on your e-services after that week is over. And then your tuition is billed, it will be billed after you register for your classes. So just to add a few key points here, you're billed every semester. So for spring semester, you're only paying for spring semester, fall. You have to make the health insurance payment the very first thing that you need to do when you're here in the spring. Orientation fees added after orientation week, and then your tuition is also billed after you register for your classes. Now, another question that we do get, that I tend to get a lot from students is, how do I make payments? Here are a few. Okay, perfect. I know someone just asked, Krish, you just asked a question about how to make payments before you go to the US. So this is perfect. So these are some few ways that you can make payments. Now, this is where I'm going to try and speak, or like make sure I'm not making this more complicated than it needs to be. So the first way you can do it is Flywire. I can leave the link for you in the chat as well. Flywire is a direct bank transfer process as a third party. However, we always recommend Flywire because they include the best exchange rate, first of all, and there's also a $25 transfer fee only. So whether you're sending $500 or $5,000, that $25 transfer fee remains the same, which is awesome because exchange rates can get really high, and when you're sending money or your family sending money or your, sponsors sending money, you want to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck. And Flywire is definitely one of those tools. When you paid for your application fee, if you used a credit card, you can do that as well. That is all available on e-services that you can go and do it on. In person, when you're here doing orientation, you can either pay with cash or credit card, debit card, or even Apple Pay. So you have a lot more options in person. And the final method that students could join if you're unable to pay the full amount all at once is to join an automatic monthly payment plan. However, there are some things that you need to remember about the payment plan because yes, you can enroll in it. However, you have to enroll in it in advance. You have to enroll, there's deadlines for it. There's a $34 enrollment fee every semester. And just because you're enrolling in a monthly plan doesn't mean you can not pay for the entire year. You'll still have to pay by the end of the semester, the entire tuition amount. I hope this makes sense. If anything didn't make sense, please let me know. As you're doing this, I'm going to actually share the Flywire link with the information in the chat. So I'm going to stop sharing really quickly so you guys can kind of process all the information I'm giving you, and then we can continue with our session. Let me find the Flywire. All right, I'm leaving the Flywire link in the chat for you. So the first one goes more in depth into the first link goes more in depth into all of the payment options available. So they're kind of talking about what I'm talking about. And then the other link I'm sending is a direct link to the Flywire um, website to begin the process to make that wire. And the last website that I'm sending you is if you have any questions about making international payments through Flywire, that's where you would go. So hopefully this is helpful. Take your time to go through it. Don't rush it. And of course, if you run into questions or if you have questions after the session, you guys can always email me and I'll do my best to answer it. So the first thing just to remember is to not panic and it'll be okay. All right, let's continue on if you guys don't have any more questions for now. The other section that we're going to talk about, of course, is scholarships. So as a new student, undergraduate student at Minnesota State University Mankato, you will automatically receive what's called the International Maverick Scholarship, which is valued at $7,280. When you think about it, that is a good sum of money that you are getting discounted off of your tuition amount. The only requirements that are there to maintain this scholarship every semester until you graduate is to maintain your F1 status, which means you have to like abide by the federal rules and regulations, you have to register for your classes. And the other thing is that you need to maintain a 2.5 term GPA or a 3.0 cumulative GPA. So the requirements aren't crazy high to where, we're not expecting everyone to get a 4.0, but it's very realistic and it's definitely something that I firmly believe all students can continue to have. So you just have to be very mindful about the classes you're registering for, how much time you're spending on the classes and all of that good stuff. Okay. And then another question that we get a lot is, well, are there other scholarships I can apply for? Yes. So FORA enrolls students. So once you're already here as a student, every year in February, we have what's called a scholarship month. So this is a month where the entirety of the month scholarships open up. You'll find out more information when you're here as a student, but you can apply for any of the scholarships that's available on Scholarship Finder. And these can be major specific, department specific, employment specific, volunteer based, leadership based. So there's so many scholarships you can apply for as a student here, depending on what your involvements are. So this is going to be a very important time of the year to remember. It's always a good idea. You'll know when scholarship month is coming around because you'll start seeing posters everywhere. You'll start seeing people talking about it. And at KIC and on our Instagram pages, we also make posts kind of reminding students like, hey, just so you know, this month is scholarship month. So remember to, apply. So you will be getting reminders constantly, but it's also not a bad idea to have that on your calendar already. I'm a big calendar person. I need to have every part of my life kind of planned out. Otherwise, I get really overwhelmed. So, or I forget things. So if it's you, if that sounds like you, you should also put it on your calendar so you know. All right, let's quickly talk about housing options and what the cost could look like. I'm going to look at the questions really quickly. The fall insurance, I'll talk about later. Enoch, graduate student, we'll talk about that later as well. And then Krish, I hope I answered your question with the payment aspect of it and the links in the chat for you. And the last question that's also from Krish is, will SAT scores count into a scholarship? No, we use the SAT scores to basically determine what level of English and math class you need to be in. We don't require SAT or ACT scores. Those are optional. Well, we do require our English proficiency tests. However, if you already have your SAT scores, please send that in and our placement testing department can determine whether you need to take placement testing or if you're just going to be placed into a class. Okay, so off-campus and on-campus housing. We have already done a housing webinar on our pre-arrival series. So if you haven't watched that yet, it's on our YouTube channel. I actually had invited some of our current students to talk about their experiences and what they think about the on-campus, off-campus housing living situation. So if you're interested, you can go watch that. I think it's very helpful to hear the opinions of current students that are actually students here, international students here, and what their decision process was like. However, if you're still kind of in the decision-making process, ultimately, what I always tell students is it's up to you. It's up to your budget. It's up to what kind of university experience you want. And obviously, if you have sponsors, you can with your sponsors, you can talk to them about what the budget looks like. If you want to live by yourself, if you want to live with one other roommate, there's so many variables when it comes to housing. So ultimately, it comes down to what you want. But just as an average here, if you're living on campus, your average cost for 9 months comes to around $1,300, but this includes room and meal plan. The best thing about living on campus is, of course, you're on campus, so you're not traveling a lot. You don't have to get on the bus in the morning to get to your classes. You don't have to like cook anything. If you're someone that doesn't enjoy cooking or doesn't know how to cook, you don't have to cook. Everything's right next to you in terms of the campus, and there's a lot of restaurants around, so you can just go there and eat as well if you're craving something not from the dining center. You have access to residence communities and learning communities. And depending on what type of room style you want to live with, you could be living with one other roommate to even more. So this is where it's important for you to really look at what the housing types are and what the budget is like. You do have to apply for it. It's always on a first come, first serve basis. So if you haven't already submitted an application, please do so. I don't know what the deadlines look like right now, but we can always look at that together as well if you'd like. So just let me know and we can do that together. Off-campus housing, on average, costs about $1,100. This is including rent, utilities, food, renter's insurance. I think as a first, semester student, I lived off campus. I've always lived off campus. I've never lived on campus. That is also probably one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't live on campus even for a year because I would have really liked to experience that on campus living. However, just depending on budget, I had to live off campus. But the biggest thing to know about living off campus is you have to be very responsible. You have to be responsible about when you're paying your rent. You only have, you have to pay the rent on a certain day. You have to pay the utilities at a different time. So if you are choosing to live off campus, remember that you'll have to be very responsible about when you're making your payments, because if you're making late payments, they don't like it here. Because again, off campus is not going to be affiliated with the university, and so we don't know how they do things. So when you're paying it, you have to make sure you're paying on time because you don't want late fees. You don't want any kind of issues with that. With off-campus housing, they usually require a 12-month lease. So a 12-month lease is basically like a 1-year contract with the off-campus housing that you're going to live there. So you can't just live there for 2 months and then you're like, no, actually, I don't like it. I'm going to leave. You can't do that. So make sure you like the place. Make sure you have security deposit because usually for off-campus housing, just like there is for on-campus housing, the 240, also for off-campus housing, depending on what apartment, they will have a security deposit that you need to pay. We do have a lot of student-friendly off-campus housing next to campus. So some of them are walking distance, again, 1 to 3 kilometers. Some of them are literally very close to campus. Some you'll have to walk a little bit. However, we do have a free bus service. I don't have my MAV card here. I always show my MAV card, but when you're here during orientation, one of the first things we're going to have you do is make your MAV card or your student ID card. And that student ID card is very important because it not only has your details and your tech ID and all the important information, but that is also the card you use as a bus pass. So whenever you're getting on the bus, you just show them that and then you don't have to pay. You can also use that MAV card or your student ID card at events around campus. You can go watch basketball and a lot of our sport events for free as long as you have that ID with you. So it's a very important piece of information that we'll provide you with, and that's just something you should keep on you at all times. If you're someone that wants to live off campus but doesn't want to cook still, you can still get the meal plan. It's not like meal plans are only for people living on campus, so just keep that in mind as well. All right. Student health insurance, another great one, and I know Winnie, you had asked about it. So F1 and J1 international students are required to purchase health insurance in the US. We can't waive it. I do get that question sometimes where students ask if they can just not pay. Unfortunately, you have to pay for it. It's mandatory. And that's the first thing you'll pay for, like I said before you register for classes. United Healthcare is the Minnesota State Insurance provider. I know a lot of students who their biggest, I guess, argument when it comes to insurance is, well, I don't really use it. Why do I need it? That's the thing about having insurance is you don't know if you'll ever need it. And that's why it's good to have on hand. As a student, I had to go to the ER a lot because I ended up getting sick a lot. And so if I didn't have the insurance, it would have been extremely expensive for me to afford the healthcare that I needed, as I had to go to the doctor a lot. As an undergraduate student, I had to go to the ER quite a bit because I was just having a lot of health concerns. And if I did not have this health insurance, I would not have been able to afford it. And so as much as it is like sounds like a lot of money, please know that at the end of the day, it will benefit you whether you use it or not, because you never know when you'll have to use it. All right, so graduate students, Enoch, I know you're here. So graduate students can apply for a teaching assistantship. It can either be full-time or part-time. It really depends on the opening that's available or the vacancy. But with the graduate teaching assistantships, you can get up to 9 credits of tuition waiver per semester and receive up to $10,000 per academic year as a stipend. So that's like $5,000 a semester. And depending on whether you have a full-time or a part-time graduate assistantship or teaching assistantship, you're looking at working 10 to 20 hours of work per week. You can only apply for the graduate assistantships after you've been admitted to the university. So if you haven't been admitted yet, I would wait. And then once you've received the acceptance, you can start applying for assistantships. Students still need to show funding. And so even if you get a graduate assistantship, you'll still need to show funding. So you'll still have to show us bank statements that you have the ability. Now, I know that there's a number on the screen right now, but that number can fluctuate depending on what major, what program you're going to be in, and you will receive communication from us about the number that we're looking for. You guys have a lot of great questions. So I will get to them. All right. I think I only have a few slides left and then I can get into your questions. So, okay, on-campus employment, that's definitely a hot topic as well for students because, you guys want to know how much you can work. So if you're a undergraduate student that's coming in, you are allowed to work up to 20 hours per week during the semester. If it's summer or winter break, you can work up to 40 hours, so you can work full-time during breaks. However, during the school time, you can only work up to 20 hours per week. Graduate students, if you do not have a graduate assistantship or teaching assistantship, you didn't get any of that and you still found a job, you're allowed to work 14 hours per week year around. Unless, of course, you're working as a GA or a TA, then you're working 10 to 20 hours depending on the assistantship you have. These are some additional things to remember for students that want to do internships or work off campus. The biggest things to remember is curricular practical training, CPT, is before you graduate. Optional practical training is after you graduate. So the only thing you should be honestly for right now, what you should be focusing on is the CPT element of it. So it's essentially an internship or co-op experience that's related to your academic program. So if you're going to be doing a program or a major that requires you to do an internship, that's when the CPT comes in. This can be paid or unpaid. Obviously, most students try and look for a paid internship. And then you do have to get permission from both your immigration advisor and your academic advisor before we approve your CPT. So just some things to remember. Alrighty, orientation. Please plan to arrive in Mankato by January 5th, 2025, because orientation is going to start January 6th. Ideally, I would say that you should come here a little bit earlier so that you have enough time to rest, deal with the jet lag, because the jet lag can be pretty bad. And you guys are also going to be coming in the winter where it's going to be snowing. So we want to make sure that you're rested, you understand the climate a little bit better, especially if you're coming from an area where it doesn't snow. So give yourself enough time to, settle into this new environment, get to know the university. If you're here a little bit early, you can come to campus, just walk around, get familiar with the buildings. And we are also going to be open during most of December. So you can come say hi to our office and all of that. What to bring for check-in? Please make sure you do bring these in. So your passport and visa, and then your I-20, it needs to be signed, printed and signed. What to do before orientation? If you've received an email about placement testing, take the test online before you travel. It'll just make your life easier if you just take it and get it done and over with. However, if you want to take it in person during orientation week of January 6th to 10th, that's fine too. But if you received an email that you need to take the test and the vouchers, just get it done. It's just more convenient for you, and you're also able to kind of control your environment a little bit better. Pay health insurance. It's valid for 12 months. And then you can prepay online, again, like I said earlier, either on e-services or in person at orientation. The last thing I will remind you guys to bring, now this is important because a lot of students don't realize, even though it's on your portal and everything, is immunization records. Please bring records of immunizations if you've had any of these vaccinations. So if you've taken a Tdap or a tetanus diphtheria vaccine or an MMR vaccine, so mumps, measles, mumps, and rubella, if you've taken these, please have those with you. You can just bring it with your doctor's signs and everything if you have that. Or you can email the records to Student Health Services because we are going to require this information. And finally, follow us on social media. We do our very best to update our social media. We are most active on Instagram. It's just the one platform that a lot of students are able to connect with us. If you have questions, you can also DM us on Instagram. The weight depends on how many students we have available to answer, but sometimes I also look at the DMs and answer them as they come. And then we will also be doing a lot of Instagram lives this December before orientation, and I'm going to have some of our social media students do those. So you'll be able to talk to current international students during those lives because it's just going to be them, and you guys can have more of a one-on-one conversation where they can answer your questions as they go. I will put something together and then let you guys know, but if you follow us on Instagram right now and turn on the notifications, it'll let you know when we go live too. So just turn on the bell and it'll let you know when we go live, and we'd love to interact with you at more places because during webinars, I can't see you guys. I don't really know. It's really hard for me to put faces to names, names to faces. But on Instagram, it's a lot easier because I can kind of see who you are and your name. We also do have TikTok, that's more of our trends area. And we also do have YouTube that has all of our recorded live sessions that we do for pre-arrival. We have all of our other videos as well on there. So I highly encourage you to follow us in all of the social medias. But with that, I'm going to stop sharing, look at a lot of your questions that you guys have really good questions. So I'll get to them. Let's look at insurance really quickly. So let me pull that up and then I'll share my screen. I know this was a lot of information, so if there's anything you need clarification on, please let me know and I will do my best to clarify. Personal insurance. I'm losing my voice really fast. All right. Why is the health insurance 20 for fall 2,300, but spring insurance is higher? Can you tell me where you're seeing that? Also, when you guys do come here, so whenever we pay insurance, we usually pay for August through the next year. So if that makes sense, when you pay for insurance, you're paying for fall and spring. Because you guys are going to be coming here in the spring, your purchase is going to look a little bit, your pricing is going to look a little bit different. And then you have to pay for that fall through spring insurance again. I hope this makes sense. Whom should I mail for Accuplacer test details? Yuki, I would say, hold on, let me give you the email in the chat, okay? Placement testing. All right, if anybody has questions about the Accuplacer that you have to take, this is the email I encourage you to email with questions. They are usually very quick to answer, so this is the email you would email. Can we play Ariel? Can we pay for health insurance online, or are we required to pay it in person during orientation? If you're able to pay it online, you can pay it off. It should be on your e-services. So if you want to pay it off right away, you can. Krish asked, is teaching assistantship not available for undergraduate students? We do have students that do apply to be teaching assistants. I don't know what the payments look like for those, but I do know we have some students that do work as a teaching assistant that are compensated for it. I think it would be great for you to speak with your department and kind of see what they have available. If we transfer in the second semester, will we receive a refund for half of the insurance fee? That is a great question. I will have to defer you over to registrar's office and they'll be able to answer that for you. When can we apply for campus jobs? That's a great question. So the tool that the university uses to post jobs is known as the Handshake. So I'm gonna see you on Handshake. So Handshake is where you would go. Usually the requirements for that looks like you need to have like your resume ready. You might have to write a cover letter. But you can start applying for jobs as soon as you get here, if you see anything that you could qualify for, just go ahead and apply for it. Jobs can be pretty competitive and hard to get, so first come, first serve. You need to start early. You need to make sure your resume looks good. So that's what I would focus on initially. Will the health insurance for the entire year have to be paid at once? Yes, yes, we have to pay it all at once. We don't do payment plans for those. The, tuition element, you can, again, like I said before, you can be in a payment plan, but insurance, you would have to pay for it up front. Really good questions, guys. And again, if you have more questions on orientation, it's going to be December 30th. All right. It's very cold here right now. So I highly encourage that you guys bring, proper clothing. And then we also have a lot of questions on YouTube, so I will answer those as well. I'm not avoiding you guys. All right. When is the deadline for payment for the total semester bill? That's a great question. Let me look up the deadline. For spring, because I would need to list view. All right. Okay. So the semester due date is going to be February 17. So please keep that in mind. Luyo, I hope that answered your question. So that is going to be February 17. I am going to leave that link in the YouTube chat for you and also in our webinar. So you guys have that. So you guys can look at that important dates section. That is going to be very important. Do we have to take the placement test if our SAT score is decent enough? So if you've received an email that you need to take a placement testing, it means you have to take the placement testing. If you submitted your SAT scores or your English proficiency scores and you didn't receive anything, then you're most likely okay. However, when you're here doing orientation week, if you decide you want to take a placement testing because you want to be placed in a higher course, you can do that. Krish, I hope that answered your question as well. Luyo asked, what do I do if I do not have immunization records? That is a great question. If you don't have immunization records, it's totally fine. You can just once you're here, you can let student health services know that you don't have any immunization records, and then they're going to schedule you for a time to get those vaccinations done. So if you don't have them, that's totally fine. You can talk to student health services and they'll schedule you in to get the vaccines done. Om asked, if we want to pay our tuitions through a payment plan, can you give me an idea of how it might look when trying to pay them off? So that is a great question. Let me send you the payment plan section of things. So let's see, bills and payment and payment plans. I'm going to share my screen actually. I think that'll be easiest for everybody. All right. There are deadlines for it, so you really have to make sure you're applying for it sooner than later. So here is what the deadlines look like. Sharing my screen. Okay. So Since we're coming for spring 2025, as you can see here, you guys are going to be here in January. So you could be doing 3 payments. If you sign up early enough, you could pay off your tuition or you pay your tuition in 3 payments. So that would be January, February, March, and April. If you wait for too long, like if you didn't sign up for it until February 17, you have to pay at least 30% of what you owe down, and you can make 2 payments to pay it off. So again, like you see here, it's very important that you sign up soon. You enroll for it as soon as you can if you don't think that you can pay for it. And to remember that payment due date is the 5th of every month. So let's say you enroll in January on January 24th, you pay the $300 or like the 15% down. That means February 5th, you need to make 1 payment, March 5th, and then April 5th. I will leave this link in the chat for you, Om, so you can look at it and discuss it with, your sponsors and kind of figure out what would work best for you. Oh, not at all. I'm happy you asked these questions because these questions are very important, and I'm glad that you're taking the initiative to ask them now instead of worrying about it later. So there's that link for you. I'll also leave the link in the Zoom chat, so if anybody else is curious, you can do that. Ariel asked, I have another question. Who can we contact if we have more questions about billing and payment? Because there are prepayment options on my e-service portal that I do not understand. That is a great question. Let me give you the information on who to contact for that. Give me a quick second here. I need to look that up. Bills and payments. That's going to be the cashier's office. I'm just going to give you the email information for them so you can reach out to them. So Ariel, I'm leaving that in the chat for you. So this is for the questions that you have. If you want to give them a call or something, you can. This is their entire website. I'll also leave that in the chat for YouTube so that if you guys want to, you guys can do that as well. These are really, really great questions. Thank you for asking them, and I hope I was able to answer all of them. If you have any further questions, again, you can always email us at international@mnsu.edu, or you can reach out to me and I'll do my best to answer. No worries, Ariel. I'm very excited to see you guys in the spring. And again, like I said, please sign up for the orientation overview webinar. That's going to be very helpful for you to get an understanding of what to expect. But other than that, this is our Instagram. Please follow us. We post a lot of content on there, and we would love for you to kind of get familiar with faces as well. I would love for you guys to get to know my social media team because you will see them during orientation. They will be around. And I would love for you guys to get familiar so you guys can just go up to them and ask any questions you have. I have 4 students on my team, Udai, Amal, Fatima, and Samala, or Tiffany. Tiffany's from Ivory Coast. Amal's from Uzbekistan. Fatima is from Azerbaijan, and Udai is from Japan. And they are all very wonderful students, and I'm very grateful to have them on my team, and I'd love for you guys to look at their work. But other than that, I think that is going to be all for today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, evening, wherever you are, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Please, again, if you have any questions, email me or DM us on Instagram, and we'll do our best to answer those. But other than that, I think that is all for me. I'm gonna go eat something for lunch. So, bye.